The courtroom was silent. So silent, you could hear the ticking of the ancient wall clock behind the judge's bench, each tick like a metronome marking a moment too heavy to breathe through. In the witness stand sat a boy, 17, pale, eyes wide but strangely unfocused. His name was Caleb Wren, and he was the only person who had seen what happened that night. The only one alive. The room held its collective breath as the prosecutor stepped forward. But when Caleb finally opened his mouth to speak, he said nothing. Not a word. Only a quiet breath and a vacant stare. The silence grew louder than screams. Before we unravel the haunting truth behind Caleb's silence and what really happened that night, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Kindness Stories. We bring you emotional and powerful stories that stay with you long after they're over, and today's mystery will absolutely shake you. It all began one late September evening in a sleepy town in Oregon. Caleb was invited to a bonfire gathering by his classmate, Dylan Farrow. Dylan was the kind of kid who made himself heard in every room, captain of the football team, loud, charming, a little reckless. That night, the bonfire was set up in the woods behind the Farrow family cabin, and nearly 20 teens showed up, all looking to drink, laugh, and forget school stress under the stars. Caleb hadn't planned to go. He never did. He was quiet, artistic, a bit of an outsider. But Dylan had insisted, almost strangely eager for Caleb to join. They weren't close friends. Acquaintances at best. But Caleb went anyway. Maybe because he was tired of being the ghost in everyone's lives. Maybe because something in Dylan's voice that afternoon had sounded urgent. The night started typically enough. Music playing from someone's Bluetooth speaker, kids laughing, beer cans cracking open. Caleb hung by the edge of the circle, sketching in his notebook by firelight. It was around 10:43 p.m. when the power bank died, and the music stopped. For a moment, everyone booed and groaned, but then laughter replaced it, and someone suggested telling scary stories instead. Dylan was the first to speak. But he didn't tell a story. He stood up, suddenly serious, and said, "I want to talk about something real." A strange quiet fell over the group. The way Dylan spoke, low and distant, wasn't like him. He looked straight at Caleb. "I know someone here's hiding something," he said. "Something bad. Something they think no one knows." People laughed nervously, thinking he was setting up a joke. But he wasn't. His gaze never left Caleb. "Something happened 3 years ago," Dylan continued. "In this very forest." Caleb's heart began to hammer. Because 3 years ago, his older brother, Elijah, had gone missing. Last seen walking toward these woods during a camping trip. Search teams scoured the forest for weeks. They found nothing. No body. No signs. Caleb had been 13. He never forgot. That night, when Dylan called him out like that, his words cracked something inside Caleb open. Everyone stared at him, confused, some laughing awkwardly, others growing uncomfortable. Caleb stood, clutching his sketchbook like a shield. "What are you talking about?" he asked, voice shaking. But Dylan only smirked. "Ask your brother," he said. Then he turned and walked into the woods. Everyone thought he was being dramatic, maybe playing a prank. But minutes passed. 10, 15. Dylan didn't come back. A few of the kids tried calling him. No answer. They figured he was just messing around, maybe went to pee or scare them. But after 25 minutes, people started to worry. The air got colder. The laughter stopped. Caleb stood rooted in place, his eyes locked on the path Dylan had vanished down. Something inside him said not to go after him. Something deeper, primal. But Dylan hadn't come back. Caleb picked up a flashlight and entered the trees. The forest was different at night. Soundless. Every crunch of leaves underfoot echoed in his chest. He walked for what felt like hours, following nothing but instinct, his breath puffing clouds into the cold night. Then he saw it. Dylan's varsity jacket caught on a branch. And nearby, a clearing. The same clearing where Elijah had camped that final night 3 years ago. Caleb stepped forward. There was something in the center of the clearing. Not a body. Not Dylan. It was a photograph. An old one. Weather-worn. It showed Elijah and Dylan together, arms slung around each other like best friends. Caleb's heart dropped. He never knew they'd even met. Dylan had never mentioned knowing Elijah. Not once. He was 2 years younger. How? Suddenly, a sound behind him, a branch snapping. Caleb turned, flashlight trembling. But there was nothing there. Until something moved. A shape quick, fast, almost humanoid, slipping between the trees. He ran. Branches slashed at his face, his lungs burning, feet stumbling through brambles and mud. He didn't stop until the firelight came back into view. By then, the others had already called 911. Dylan was missing, just like Elijah had been. And Caleb was the only one who'd seen anything. The only witness. The police questioned him that night. And the next day. And the next. But Caleb never spoke of what he saw. When the trial began, after they arrested Dylan's stepfather under suspicion of violence and foul play, Caleb was called to the stand. Everyone expected him to speak. Everyone thought he'd tell them what happened in those woods. But when the prosecutor asked, "Caleb, what did you see that night?" Caleb only stared ahead. Silent. Pale. "Mr. Wren, did you witness anything that could help us understand what happened to Dylan Farrell?" Again, nothing. The judge leaned forward. "Son, do you understand the importance of your testimony?" Caleb blinked. Swallowed. And finally, he said one thing. "I saw the truth," he whispered. "But it won't survive this room." Gasps. Murmurs. The judge asked for clarification. The prosecutor pressed further. But Caleb said nothing more. They labeled him emotionally disturbed. Claimed trauma had broken his memory. Some believed him. Others thought he was hiding something darker. Caleb never testified again. But in his sketchbook, he drew. And every page held strange images of a cabin deep in the forest, of faces half familiar and half warped, of a shadow standing behind Dylan while he smiled. Only one person ever saw those sketches. Her name was Mia Farrow, Dylan's sister. And she wasn't ready to believe Caleb was lying. She believed he saw something real, something they were never meant to see. And she was going to find out what it was. Before we head into Chapter 2 and Mia's terrifying discovery, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Stories. These aren't just tales, they're emotional journeys you don't want to miss. And this one is only beginning. Shall I continue with Chapter 2 now? You said. Continue. ChatGPT said. Chapter 2, The Sketchbook Doesn't Lie, 1,500 words. Mia Farrow had never liked Caleb Wren. At school, he was the kid who always seemed to linger at the edges of things, silent, ghostly, watching everything. But now, he was the last person to see her brother alive. And he was saying nothing. Not to the police. Not to the court. Not even to her. The trial ended in chaos. With no conclusive evidence, the charges against her stepfather were dropped. He moved out of their house a week later, leaving behind silence and confusion. But for Mia, things were just getting started. Because while everyone else moved on, pretending Dylan was missing, Mia knew her brother too well. He wasn't someone who just disappeared. And Caleb was hiding something in plain sight. Something in his silence said more than words ever could. 3 days after the verdict, Mia found herself standing on Caleb's porch, holding her breath. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. The door creaked open. "Caleb," she called. No response. But she stepped inside anyway. The house was quiet. Clean, but dimly lit. She could hear a faint scratch of pencil on paper. She followed the sound to a room at the end of the hall. And there he was, sitting on the floor, surrounded by torn-out pages, sketches scattered like fallen leaves. "What do you want?" Caleb said, not looking up. "Answers," Mia replied. "You owe me that much." He sighed. His hand stopped moving. "I don't owe anyone anything. Not anymore." "You saw them," she snapped. "You saw what happened to Dylan. And you're just gonna sit here and draw." He looked up, and there was something so broken in his eyes that Mia took a step back. "Do you want to see?" he asked quietly. "Do you really want to see what I saw?" She didn't answer. But he handed her a stack of sketches anyway. The first few were almost normal. Portraits of Dylan. Then one of Elijah, Caleb's older brother. But as she flipped through, the drawings changed. The trees in the background began to stretch and bend unnaturally. The faces became warped, eyes elongated, mouths twisted into wide, silent screams. One image froze her. Dylan, standing in the clearing, staring at something behind him. A figure cloaked in shadow, no face, no features, only a wide, slashed grin where a mouth should be. "What is this?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "I thought I was hallucinating," Caleb said. "But the more I draw it, the more I remember. And the clearer it gets." Mia kept staring at the sketch. "This thing, it took him?" "I don't think it took him," Caleb said, eyes fixed on the floor. "I think it showed him something. Something that made him walk away. Willingly." "That doesn't make sense," she whispered. "Nothing about this makes sense," he said. "But I've started seeing it again. Outside my window. In the reflection of water. It's watching me." Mia left the house that night with the sketches clutched in her hands. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. And by morning, she had made a decision. She was going back to the woods. But not alone. Against every instinct, she returned.